Delighted to welcome everyone to this yet again another virtual meeting of the Peacebuilding Commission. As I always do, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping notes. We would normally be webcasting an open meeting of the PBC, but we're recording this meeting and we'll repost the recording to the website of the Commission. I'd like to remind everyone to sign in with your name and mission affiliation, and to keep your mics off if you're not speaking. Once the briefers have concluded, we will open the floor to member states. The speakers list is now open, and I would request all missions to use the chat function to request the floor, and that will then be communicated to me. As per the usual practice, we'll build the speakers list on the basis of protocol, giving preference to countries from the region. Given the large number of speakers for this meeting, as always, I'd like to kindly remind all the briefers to limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. 5 minutes for the briefers, and to request that member states limit their interventions to no more than what is politely referred to as 2 or 3 minutes, but short. I'm delighted to chair the meeting, and it's a subject of great concern. When we had a meeting in June, which I was not present for, but I think Marc-André Blanchard was, we agreed that the next meeting should really focus on the question that we've touched upon on many different meetings and has also been discussed with the Security Council, which is the issue of the role of women in peace building. And it's exceptionally important that we take advantage of the presence of a great many very qualified briefers and others to give us the update. There were a series of local consultations attended by representatives of countries of the Great Lakes region, including representatives of the Advisory Board for Women, Peace and Security in the Great Lakes, WPS experts, women business leaders, regional civil society organizations, international partners. We have 2 people from those discussions so they can update us on what's actually been discussed on the ground. And of course, we're very happy to be having this meeting so long after last month's discussion of how we could strengthen the implementation of our gender strategy. I hope that today's discussion can focus on ways that the PBC can reinforce the central role played by women in peace building and economic recovery, including efforts on regional cooperation. So please use your time, if you can, to try to give us some practical suggestions as to how we can actually advance this aspect of our very important agenda, and a priority not only for the Peacebuilding Commission, but also for the Secretary General and all the work that he does through this Peacebuilding Fund, and share your ideas about how we can move this issue forward, both collectively and individually. I'm delighted to welcome back Mr. Huang Xia, who's the Special Envoy of the Secretary General for the Great Lakes region. And following his remarks, we'll be briefed on the outcomes of the regional roundtables of July and August by 2 speakers, Madame Julienne Lessange, who's the Directrice du Fonds pour les Femmes Congolaises, and Madame Mick Kigoma, who is the founder of the Fruto Company. Please note, friends, that les remarques de nos deux invités seront données en français et vous aurez une traduction de leurs commentaires dans votre paquet. Following their briefings, we'll hear some reflections by Madame Benetta Diop, who's the African Union Special Envoy on Women, Peace and Security. And we know that she has to leave, and we appreciate very much her coming in to see us. So if anybody, either one of you or one of the briefers could be concise, getting to the 5 minutes, we will circulate any written remarks that you have and make sure that they're widely shared. Si vous avez encore des remarques, nous sommes tout à fait heureux de partager vos commentaires écrits pour tout le monde. Et maintenant, je vais donner la parole à Monsieur Huang Xia. I'm going to give the place to Mr. Huang Xia, and also suivi par Madame Julienne Lessange et par Madame Mick Kigoma, et puis ensuite Madame Diop. And we will have a good conversation, and then I'll turn to all of you for your comments. So thank you very much. Over to you, Special Envoy.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président de la Commission de consolidation de la paix, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des missions permanentes, distingués invités, représentants, représentantes de la société civile, Monsieur le Président, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, je voudrais tout d'abord vous féliciter pour votre nomination comme représentant permanent du Canada auprès des Nations Unies et, à travers vous, remercier la présidence canadienne de la Commission de consolidation de la paix d'avoir pris l'initiative de cette réunion consacrée à l'engagement des femmes en faveur de la consolidation de la paix. Cette initiative témoigne de l'engagement sans équivoque de la Commission à soutenir les pays de la région des Grands Lacs et mieux encore à intégrer dans son agenda les priorités relatives au rôle des femmes en ce qui concerne la paix, la sécurité et le développement économique dans le contexte actuel de la crise sanitaire. Je voudrais également saluer la présence parmi nous de Madame Bineta Diop, envoyée spéciale de la Commission de l'Union africaine, et Madame Liperta Moula, ancienne secrétaire exécutive de la Conférence internationale pour la région des Grands Lacs, toutes deux femmes leaders et membres du Conseil consultatif Femmes, Paix et Sécurité pour la région des Grands Lacs. Je voudrais enfin me réjouir de la participation des représentantes des femmes de la région à notre réunion. Elles feront la restitution tout à l'heure des conclusions des tables rondes consultatives que mon bureau a organisées en juillet et août dernier avec une participation inclusive et de qualité. Monsieur le Président, distingués invités, la région des Grands Lacs, qui a souffert de l'instabilité et des conflits pendant plusieurs décennies, connaît aujourd'hui des avancées appréciables en matière de rapprochement et de consolidation de la confiance entre les États de la région. Cette dynamique positive offre de nouvelles perspectives, offre de nouvelles opportunités pour la coopération régionale et l'appui de la communauté internationale. Aussi, en juin dernier, au terme de consultations dédiées à l'impact de la pandémie du COVID-19 et de la maladie à virus Ebola sur la paix dans les Grands Lacs, la Commission s'est-elle dite prête à soutenir les pays de la région dans leurs efforts visant à assurer le relèvement et le développement socio-économique et à accorder une attention prioritaire aux programmes en faveur des femmes afin que celles-ci soient pleinement impliquées dans leurs efforts régionaux de consolidation de la paix. La Commission s'est, à cet égard, engagée à organiser une réunion de suivi dédiée à la mise en œuvre de l'agenda sur les femmes, paix et sécurité. C'est dans ce contexte que mon bureau a facilité l'organisation de tables rondes consultatives les 28 juillet, 11 et 20 août dernier. Celles-ci ont vu, en dépit des contraintes liées à la pandémie COVID-19, la participation d'un grand nombre de représentants de gouvernements, de femmes leaders, des milieux académiques, du monde des affaires et d'organisations de femmes et jeunes œuvrant dans les secteurs divers. Je suis heureux de noter que les nombreuses participantes et participants ont pu dégager un certain nombre de solutions concertées et des recommandations stratégiques fortes relatives à la participation effective des femmes dans le processus de paix et de stabilisation, la prévention des violences sexuelles et sexistes, mais aussi au relèvement économique contenu dans le rapport qui vous a été soumis. Par ailleurs, Monsieur le Président, je tiens à rappeler que ces tables rondes consultatives se sont tenues à une période charnière, non seulement pour notre organisation, mais également pour la problématique femmes, paix et sécurité qui nous rassemble aujourd'hui. En effet, elles s'inscrivent d'une part dans le contexte du 75e anniversaire des Nations Unies avec le principe clé de l'humanisme qui résonne comme un engagement que nous devons tous prendre, ne laisser personne pour compte, et d'autre part, dans le cadre du 20e anniversaire de la résolution 1325 et celle de la dernière résolution du Conseil de sécurité 2532. Dans ce contexte, Monsieur le Président, la réunion d'aujourd'hui ne pouvait mieux tomber. Nous devrons, au terme de nos discussions, capitaliser sur l'intérêt suscité par ces consultations pour mieux cibler nos actions en appui aux femmes en cette période critique où le monde est en proie à de profonds bouleversements causés par la pandémie et ses répercussions économiques et sociales profondes. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, nos discussions de fond seront introduites sous peu par Mesdames Lu Songye et Mouk, qui feront une présentation des recommandations issues des tables rondes consultatives. Je suis convaincu qu'elles sauront attirer notre attention sur quelques-unes des recommandations les plus fortes afin de rendre un bel hommage aux femmes de la région et de rappeler à quel point, plus que jamais, les États de la région et la communauté internationale doivent travailler de concert pour leur apporter tout le soutien nécessaire. Nous devons en effet agir ensemble pour appuyer et accompagner des initiatives de développement économique, de dialogue communautaire et de cohésion sociale. Nous devons aussi agir ensemble pour soutenir et accompagner la coopération sous-régionale, en particulier le rôle des femmes, leur engagement en matière de prévention et de participation dans les processus de gouvernement, de consolidation de la paix et de développement économique dans la région des Grands Lacs. Dans cette perspective, je puis vous assurer que mon bureau ne ménagerait aucun effort et jouera sa partition en appui aux femmes de la région, actrices incontournables du changement dans une région des Grands Lacs qui se veut plus stable, plus inclusive, mais aussi plus intégrée et donc plus prospère. L'élaboration dans les prochaines semaines d'un plan d'action adossé à la stratégie régionale des Nations Unies dans les Grands Lacs offrira à cet effet une occasion de plus pour renforcer les synergies et les efforts de coopération sur le volet femmes, paix et sécurité qui constitue une de ses priorités. Permettez-moi de conclure avec un appel à la mobilisation sans équivoque de la communauté et de l'ensemble des participants afin que les recommandations issues de nos travaux feront l'objet d'une traduction concrète sur le terrain et contribuent ainsi aux efforts déployés par les femmes pour asseoir la paix, la stabilité et le développement durable dans la période post-Covid et au-delà. Après les mots donc, il nous faudrait tous agir. C'est un engagement ferme que nous devons aux femmes et aux filles de la région. Je vous remercie pour votre aimable attention.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Envoyé spécial. On apprécie beaucoup vos commentaires. C'est Madame Lusange qui va prochainement et puis ensuite Madame Kigoma. Madame Lusange, vous êtes là?
Oui, je suis là. Merci, Président.
Merci.
Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, je suis Julienne Lusenge, directrice du Fonds pour les femmes congolaises. J'ai été désignée au nom des participantes et participants de vous présenter les conclusions des tables rondes portant sur la prévention de toutes les formes de violence à l'égard des femmes et leur protection, les mesures efficaces pour garantir la participation véritable des femmes à la vie politique et leur contribution à la consolidation de la paix dans le contexte actuel de la pandémie COVID-19. Permettez-moi ici d'exprimer notre appréciation à l'endroit de l'envoyé spécial, du secrétaire général, ainsi que toutes les personnalités régionales et de l'ensemble du système des Nations Unies qui ont contribué à cette table ronde et partagé leurs perspectives. Les recommandations suivantes ont été retenues pour les deux tables rondes. S'agissant de la table ronde sur la prévention de toutes les formes de violence à l'égard des femmes et leur protection, la table ronde consultative a abordé 3 domaines thématiques, dont des stratégies de protection et programmes de relèvement efficaces pour les survivantes et les survivants de VSBG, intégrer la lutte contre les VSBG et d'autres crimes dans les mécanismes de paix et de sécurité et allouer les ressources nécessaires à la prévention et le relèvement économique des survivants et survivantes. Apporter un appui pour la création de l'adoption et l'application des cadres juridiques qui interdisent la violence domestique et la violence sexuelle basée sur le genre. Les 15 recommandations ont été formulées sur cette question. Toutefois, nous voudrions insister sur les points suivants. Les États membres et les partenaires doivent renforcer le soutien financier et technique pour les réformes du système judiciaire et veiller à préserver les droits des femmes en intégrant notamment les questions de violences sexistes dans les mécanismes nationaux de planification, la tolérance zéro en matière d'impunité et la mise en place des mécanismes d'aide aux survivantes et survivants, notamment un soutien juridique et une réinsertion sociale qui leur permettent de retrouver leur dignité. L'importance des programmes d'action proposés par la société civile pour endiguer les activités des groupes armés à l'est de la RDC, y compris la coopération sécuritaire et les mécanismes, les mesures non militaires. L'importance du rôle central que jouent les femmes et les jeunes en tant qu'agents de changement dans les processus de conception et de mise en œuvre de programmes de relèvement et de stratégies de protection contre les VSBG. Renforcer le leadership et la participation significative des femmes et des filles dans tous les processus de prise de décision pour faire face à l'épidémie de COVID-19. Combiner l'autonomisation économique, la prestation des soins, la participation des survivantes et survivants à la formulation des politiques et l'accès aux services de lutte contre les VSBG. À cet égard, il convient de faciliter la formation en ligne des avocats et du personnel d'appui de l'antenne des conseils juridiques sur le traitement des VSBG et mettre en place des systèmes d'alerte rapide pour fournir des services juridiques aux survivantes et survivants. Apporter un soutien au centre d'excellence de la CIRGL pour documenter les violences faites aux femmes, améliorer la collecte des données ventilées selon les sexes qui permettront d'identifier le suivi plus clair de la prévalence et des caractéristiques des violences sexuelles. Les acteurs régionaux et internationaux doivent accroître leur soutien à la société civile pour la sensibilisation communautaire des masses contre les VSBG, le renforcement des capacités et la communication stratégique. Établir des centres polyvalents au sein des communautés pour servir des centres de soutien et d'information sur les VSBG, en particulier pour les survivantes et survivants. Intégrer une approche globale de l'égalité des sexes et de la sexualité dans les programmes d'études nationaux et de la région. Les participants et participantes ont souligné l'importance de la recherche dans la conception, l'inclusion et la mise en œuvre des programmes de relèvement et des stratégies de protection contre les VSBG, l'évaluation rapide, quantitative et qualitative des aspects socio-économiques de la violence sexuelle basée sur le genre. Donner au réseau régionaux et des médias les moyens de continuer à sensibiliser et à éduquer la communauté sur la prévention des VSBG et la lutte contre ces dernières. Par rapport aux mesures efficaces pour garantir la participation pleine et effective des femmes à la vie politique, à la gouvernance et leur contribution à la consolidation de la paix, les débats animés ont permis de réfléchir aux différentes perspectives pour aborder la participation pleine, significative et effective des femmes dans le cadre d'une approche inclusive qui met l'accent sur l'importance de la parité, le passage du quota minimum initial de 30% à 50%. À cet effet, il serait important de renforcer les cadres juridiques et institutionnels qui permettront d'atteindre cet objectif et sa mise en œuvre, ainsi que le partenariat avec les organisations régionales en vue de tirer les enseignements de leurs expériences. Il a été également reconnu que la région des Grands Lacs manque de femmes en nombre suffisant comme négociatrices et médiatrices pour la consolidation de la paix. Parmi les recommandations faites par les participants à cette table ronde, nous souhaitons souligner celles qui suivent: renforcer les capacités des femmes médiatrices et négociatrices de la base au sommet pour leur permettre de participer équitablement à tous les processus de consolidation de la paix. Les États membres doivent renforcer les mécanismes locaux qui contrôlent les quotas des femmes pour les postes de direction. Les États membres et les partenaires doivent accroître le soutien à la mise en œuvre des plans d'action de la résolution 1325 et renforcer les structures telles que les groupes de femmes parlementaires et accroître le rôle des femmes dans les partis politiques et les commissions des droits de la personne. En conclusion, aucune de ces recommandations ne pourront être mises en œuvre sans les ressources humaines et financières nécessaires des partenaires et de la Commission en vue d'entreprendre des activités visant à mettre fin à l'impunité face au VSBG et à assurer la participation des femmes au processus de consolidation de la paix et leur contribution à la gouvernance politique. Nous comptons donc sur l'engagement de la Commission pour la consolidation de la paix pour plaider en faveur du financement des programmes développés dans la région des Grands Lacs, en particulier ceux conduits par les organisations féminines qui contribueront à la mise en œuvre de ces recommandations. Nous comptons également sur les partenaires internationaux pour continuer à accompagner les pays de la région dans leurs efforts de prévention de toutes les formes de violence à l'égard des femmes et leur protection, le renforcement de la participation des femmes à la vie politique et à la consolidation de la paix. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup et je tourne maintenant à Madame Kigoma et ensuite à Madame Diop. Madame Kigoma, vous avez la parole. Est-ce que votre micro est en train de marcher?
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci.
Merci. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, au nom des femmes entrepreneurs de la région des Grands Lacs, nous remercions la Commission pour la consolidation de la paix des Nations Unies et tous les distingués participantes et participants à cette importante session. Merci au bureau de l'envoyé spécial Yuan Xian qui a facilité, en concertation avec la CIRGL, la tenue de ces tables rondes au niveau de notre région. Je suis Marie Mukigoma, femme entrepreneur au Burundi. J'ai été désignée par vous pour vous restituer les recommandations à l'endroit des États de la région et à l'ensemble des partenaires au développement à l'issue de la concertation inclusive tenue le 28 juillet 2020 sur l'autonomisation économique des femmes. Comme vous le savez, l'impact de la pandémie de la COVID-19 a eu une ampleur dévastatrice sur tous les secteurs de la société, ayant entraîné une récession économique dans une région qui a enregistré une croissance économique parmi les plus fortes au monde. Ceci est dû en partie aux fermetures des frontières, aux perturbations dans les chaînes d'approvisionnement, à la baisse des flux commerciaux et d'investissement, une quasi-interruption de l'activité économique dans les secteurs clés de la région, les mesures prises pour contenir la pandémie COVID-19 a eu un coût socio-économique considérable et a affecté particulièrement les femmes et les ménages pauvres. Dans ce contexte, les femmes entrepreneurs sont particulièrement touchées par les conséquences structurelles de la pandémie parce qu'elles ont un rôle prédominant dans le secteur informel qui représente plus de 70% du commerce transfrontalier. Le secteur agricole dynamique de la région, dominé également par les femmes, a démontré sa résilience et enregistré des pratiques innovantes pendant la pandémie. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, il importe d'amorcer la relance économique post-Covid dans la région et d'être attentif aux préoccupations spécifiques des femmes entrepreneurs. Nous proposons à cet effet à nos États, à la communauté internationale et aux partenaires au développement 2 niveaux d'intervention de soutien aux femmes entrepreneurs. Premier niveau d'intervention, un soutien transversal au niveau macro pour améliorer les politiques et en particulier l'approfondissement du processus d'intégration économique régionale. Il s'agit d'encourager les États membres à poursuivre les efforts visant notamment à l'amélioration du climat des affaires, à l'ouverture des frontières, à la levée progressive des barrières tarifaires et non tarifaires, l'harmonisation des régimes fiscaux et des politiques commerciales, le renforcement du commerce régional et transfrontalier, la mise en œuvre réussie de la zone de libre-échange continentale conformément aux principes établis par l'Union africaine. Deuxième niveau d'intervention, un appui ciblé pour renforcer et mieux structurer les associations de femmes commerçantes. Le renforcement des capacités des femmes qui sont impliquées dans le commerce transfrontalier et informel, un engagement conséquent des partenaires à financer des projets structurants pour promouvoir le potentiel économique des femmes et des jeunes dans la région, accroître les fonds d'investissement avec des critères flexibles d'éligibilité au financement pour les femmes et les jeunes, réduire les taux d'intérêt des prêts accordés aux femmes, créer un plus grand nombre de sociétés de capital risque dirigées par des femmes et la mise en place des plateformes d'apprentissage en ligne pour favoriser l'accès des femmes à une vaste gamme de connaissances commerciales et de renforcement de leurs capacités. Nous osons espérer que vous serez attentifs à ces recommandations qui permettront d'amorcer la reprise économique et renforcer le rôle prédominant des femmes entrepreneurs dans la consolidation de la paix et de développement de la région des Grands Lacs. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Kigoma. Je vous assure que vos recommandations seront considérées d'une façon très, très sérieuse et j'apprécie beaucoup votre présence et vos recommandations qui sont, je pense, à mon avis, bien fondées sur la réalité sur le terrain et sur la nécessité d'avoir une stratégie de la part de nos organisations qui est beaucoup mieux coordonnée. Et je vous remercie beaucoup. Et j'espère que vous pourrez attendre quelques minutes pour entendre les commentaires des ambassadeurs et des autres qui ont eu le plaisir de vous entendre. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's excellent. And I think it contained a lot of very sensible recommendations. Thank you. Madame Diop, who's the Special Envoy on Women, Peace and Security. Benita.
Thank you. Thank you, Excellency Ambassador Robert Catherine. I think for me, it's important to see you even in the Great Lakes. I'm sure you are in New York, but I could see you being in the Great Lakes today.
Nothing would make me happier than to be able to be in the Great Lakes.
To be with us, yes.
I can assure you, I'd love to be there. That would be great.
Thank you. And also Ambassador Sia, the UN Special Envoy, and all the excellencies that are present here, and my sisters who just present the outcome of their consultation. And I'm very honored to be part of this conversation. I think we need to recall that this region continue to draw the attention that there are vulnerable. I will not say that the women are not vulnerable, but they are vulnerable, but they are resilient. And we need to continue to support them. So it is, while Africa, we are talking about silencing the gun this year, I think it's the fact that the Peacebuilding Commission is coming to the Great Lakes is going to benefit, I am sure, and because you continue to pay attention to the region, together with the partners that are present, but also with the African Union and the International Conference of the Great Lakes region. So I think we need to really salute you for coming to the field and listening to the women and addressing their issue. The year 2020 is really commemoration of the 1325 anniversary. And I have been in the 25 Beijing Platform for Action. I attended last week the joint meeting between PBC and the AU Peace and Security Council, which put at the core of the discussion the agenda of the women, peace and security. And I think that is, today we are looking at how we're going to implement the policy and the discussion and the dialogue that happened at that level. And I'm happy to be here from the African Union and to support the implementation of the agenda that have been drawn by the women themselves. And I'm happy to serve as a member of the advisory board of the Women Platform for Peace and Security. So I embrace what the women have said so far. So let me now say what at the African Union we have done for this year to commemorate. We have produced a 2019 report of Musa Faki Mohammed, the chairperson, and the data provided by member states indicate that in post-conflict reconstruction setting, women's needs are not addressed. We have seen, especially during this pandemic, violence against women continue. We also see that the situation of refugee and internally displaced person, just to name few, you have heard from the women some of their experience in this zone. So I think it's what the report have also indicated, that the relief and recovery pillar of the Women, Peace and Security agenda did not receive the proportional support that is needed. I have witnessed in the field during our solidarity mission with Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, when we visited the Great Lakes, Horn of Africa, or the Sahel, the impact and the fact that less have been put from the the nexus from peace, security, and development. And we need to move on those areas that are linked to the agenda of peace building. So I think the Peace Building Fund can play a critical role in addressing this pillar to prevent the recurrence of the crisis or the violence that might happen in some of those places. Let me say that I fully agree with my previous speakers who have talked about their agenda, their discussion, and the outcome. And I think that we can rally behind them and make sure that we support that agenda. First, I think it's, they talk about women as agent of change for social and economic transformation. And I think it is important that we see them not as victims, but we see them as agent of change and survivors to their conflict and being the pillars that can transform as well. I think they said also that there are opportunities in the same time. There are, especially for the borders that are being open, and if we have the Africa Free Trade Area implemented, they will create space for them for cross borders, especially the women that are in trade activities, and we need to reinforce them in those areas. And I think another area that we say is about the leadership of the women, their leadership. It has been mentioned, and we are very glad to see that their agencies, especially the network of women, peace and security in the Great Lakes, continue to reinforce, to being at the grassroots level and support the women that are in need in those regions. We need to support them. I think that is the call today. We have other networks that are being put in place like FemWise on mediation, and we need to support this kind of mechanism that African Union with the UN have put in place. Another one is, as I said, the Africa Women Leadership Leaders Network that have been now, with the support of UN Women, 25 chapters. And some of those chapters are really in the Great Lakes region. So mobilizing the knowledge of the women, their experience and their expertise, and supporting them is critical if we want a lasting peace in the Great Lakes region and in Africa as a whole. So I wanted again to salute what my sister have presented and say that we are committed to support those initiatives. Initiative exists. When we come to, for example, the issue of violence against women, we have seen solutions, for example, in Rwanda, where we have one-stop centers, which is a model, but throughout the country, not just in one, in the communities that can address those trauma, but the legal and fighting against the impunity. So I think I express again my full support to the agenda of the women. And I know that, as we all know, COVID-19 is going nowhere. Our efforts should ensure that the responses and recovery process are gender responsive. We have put that agenda to the African Union Summit 2 weeks ago to say that in any strategy that need to be in place, the women leadership, their position, but also their contribution should be at the core of reconstruction process with, as I said, the women, if at the center, if we strive to build back better. And I'm sure the Peace Building Commission, but also the fund, which is a great tool. And I have seen what you have done, you know, at the beginning with Burundi, but other places, Sierra Leone, other places, it was for us the tool that can be used to multiply and find solution in our Africa, in the region. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Madam Gup. It's very, very helpful to have that perspective. And I can assure you that we are having a meeting at the end of January on on replenishing the Peacebuilding Fund, which my foreign minister has agreed to co-chair. And we look forward to continuing with the work of the fund very strongly. Before turning to our guests who are on the speakers list, and I'll come to them in a minute, I just want to acknowledge that Ambassador Liberata Mulamula is here with us, and she is going to be, she has a lot to do with why we're here. She was the one who suggested that we follow up, that we take the lessons learned in terms of the role of women, and that we apply it particularly to the Great Lakes process. So I'm going to give Ambassador Mulamula the floor at the end. If I'm sure everybody would agree that that's something we'd all very much welcome. So I'm just going to check the magic screen here.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you so much. And see what it shows me. Here. So the list as it now stands. Okay, it's Rwanda, Valentine, Congo, Raymond, Switzerland, Pascal, Egypt, Mohammed, Sweden, Anna Karin, and then the list will continue. So Rwanda and then Congo. Valentine.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all. Thank you very much, Bob, really for this meeting. It is timely, it is straight to the point, and thanks very much to the briefers. Really, your briefings were very valuable, and they were complimentary. So I will follow. I'm very happy that I was on your screen, Bob. I will really be disciplined and try to fit in the 2 minutes. I will just make 3 brief points. First of all, to confirm what the special envoy said, we really do have currently in the Great Lakes region of Africa a positive dynamic. So what the special envoy, Ambassador Chai, said, and he's doing a great job in doing part of the shuttle diplomacy behind the scene. So I just wanted to confirm that. Second, what is allowing that? It is, and what is supporting that? It is all efforts that are being made at political level to build trust. And a lot is happening, I will say, bilaterally to build trust. Build trust between the different players, and on that I have to say it is happening bilaterally without an intermediary. So a lot is happening now. We have to find a way of supporting that, and I see 3 opportunities here, Bob. One is that in the review of the Peacebuilding Commission, we have to make sure that we find, in a way, we carve a space for the support of such trust-building initiatives that are taking place. A second opportunity I see, it is the current plan of action that is being crafted for the UN plan of action for the Great Lakes region. We have to make sure that supporting trust building is a focus of that, and I could elaborate in remarks that I will share in a written format later on what could be done in that order. Third, just to say that having women engaged in business here, let's really optimize the role of women entrepreneurs. And support. I was very happy to listen to the briefing from Madam Kigoma. Let's support them because at all points, even at the worst time in the region, women have been the bridges between the countries of the region. Just to give you an example, every day at the border between Goma in eastern DRC and Rubavu in Rwanda, there is a minimum of 65,000 small traders that cross the border every day. That has not changed with COVID. We have just put in place measures to ensure that it is safe, but it has not changed. And the majority are women. So let's make sure that we support, because there is, once people trade, then you can be sure that trust is maintained between them. The people who trade generally trust each other. And my last point will be opportunities. In the opportunities to really cement this trust, Robert, there is one important opportunity. We will have the Kigali Investment Forum that will take place next year. We are committed to that. It will take place. So trust us on that. It was due to take place in December. However, the nature of what we're trying to do cannot take place virtually. So that's the reason why we postponed it to 2021. You don't build that type of trust relationship by people meeting through virtual medium. So that's, those are some of the few points I just wanted to bring to your attention, and why we should all mobilize to supporting this trade taking place. There is another reason that has to do with security. If we support legal trade, then actually we starve illegal exploitation of resources. In some of the most troubled regions and in places where violence against women have been taking place. Let's support the formal ways of trade, because that is the way of starving illegal trade that is being led by illegal armed groups. So thank you very much. Let me stop to that. Just one last point. Bineta, thank you for mentioning the Isango One-Stop Center. Again, on this, if anyone is interested on how it happens, how it is done, those one-stop centers that are disseminated through across the country, we'll be happy to share in detail, but we don't have the time to do so now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valentine. I should tell you that when I hear a woman calling me Robert, I have a bit of trauma, because it was what my mother used to call me when I was doing something bad. So if I tweaked a little bit when you said it, that's just the reason. Congo PR, Raymond Bal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. It's very difficult, to speak after an engaged woman like my sister Valentine. She was so focused on the issue with passionate. Anyway, let me try. Congratulations for being appointed as the new PBC chair. And thank you for the invitation extended to my country. As you know, the Republic of Congo, not only as the signatory of the Addis Ababa Framework Agreement, but also as a committed country chairing the International Conference of the Great Lake region. Congo then sustains any effort aiming at peace building, stability, and development in the region. We commend the PBC continuous engagement with the countries of the region and the Great Lakes region at large. And we would like to seize this opportunity to renew our deep appreciation of the Peace Building Fund support in the Republic of Congo, following the signing of the ceasefire agreement in December 2017 between the government and local ninja rebels. The PBF supported a project that focused on enabling the condition for a disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. May I greet my sister, Mula Mula. Thank you, Gabe. Nice to see you again. May I extend my
Ambassador.
May I extend my warmest greetings to a friend, a long-term friend, Ambassador Wang Zia, the special UN envoy, and congratulate him for the laudable endeavor and engagement in assisting the countries of the Great Lake region in the effort to achieve a sustainable peace, stability, and development. We are very appreciative of the briefest informative presentations, and we do concur with the recommendations resulting from the regional consultations. Mr. Chair, this is a timely meeting which is held on an auspicious occasion as we commemorate the 20th anniversary of the UN's Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, which is complemented by the Resolution 2493-2019, that encourages cooperation and sharing of best practices on the implementation of women, peace, security agenda among all concerned stakeholders, including relevant regional organizations, government and civil society, with a focus on enhancing implementation in different regions. It is along this line of the above mentioned resolution that Brazzaville, the capital city of Congo, hosted 3 years ago, a tripartite ministerial meeting with the participation of ministers in charge of gender and women empowerment of DRC, Central African Republic and the Congo, my country, under the theme, promotion of the participation of women to the mechanism of conflict prevention, peace building and peacekeeping in Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Republic of Congo. This meeting was the opportunity for my country to share its experience through its National Action Plan for the implementation of Resolution 1325. The National Plan is a fruitful outcome of the collaboration between government institutions, UN agency, organizations of civil society, traditional and religious authorities. The Resolution 1325 on WPS also laid the grounds for a regional cooperation within the framework of the UN Standing Advisory Committee on Peace and Security Questions in Central Africa. Out of the 11 members of the Standing Committee, 6 countries of them are members of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region: DRC, Rwanda, Burundi, Central African Republic, Angola, and my country. It is under the auspices of the Standing Advisory Committee that a roundtable was organized in 2018 in Brazzaville on women, peace, security under the Resolution 1325 and related resolution. The outcome underscored the role of women in peacekeeping and peace building for a sustainable development in Central Africa. SDG 5, achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls, as well as SDG 16, promoting just, peaceful and inclusive society, were taken as the basis to acknowledge the fundamental role of women in peace and security initiative. The National Action Plan of Congo aims at promoting the full and equal participation of women in peace negotiation process, their access to justice and give them priority in the context of conflicts and post-conflict transitions. Chair, distinguished past panelists and colleagues, as a conclusion, I would like to refer back to the briefings and the recommendation of the regional consultation, as well as some statements, the one I've just heard from Valentine, which delivered as, and share one of 2 comments. In our endeavor to promote peace, stability, and development in the Great Lakes region, and namely within the context of women, peace, security, or any other relevant framework, there is indeed a need to further engage and empower women. Besides, while acknowledging the centrality of DRC, at the same time, we should recognize its interdependence with the countries of the reference to stakeholders such as regional players and RCGL parliamentary fora in the recommendation of the consultation implies a holistic approach and stand as a call for a better regional coordination of different initiatives on the different levels, national, bilateral, and sub-region, which need to be capitalized for a better efficacy. May I join my voice to the call for a more concrete and stronger commitment of the different stakeholders and our partners to assist the countries of the region individually and collectively in implementing the different recommendations presented by the different briefers and the different regional agendas where women are to play a critical role. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Raymond. It's Pascal and then Mohammed and Anna Karen. and then Mikhail from Slovakia. Please, colleagues, it would be good if you could just try to keep it a little briefer so we can get through the list. It's a very long list today, which is appropriate, but I want to make sure everybody gets in. Pascal, who chairs the Burundi special group.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je n'ose plus dire, cher Robert, Excellence, chers collègues. J'aimerais d'abord remercier tant les envoyés spéciaux des Nations Unies que de l'Union africaine, que surtout aussi les représentantes des organisations de la société civile pour leurs interventions importantes. We welcome the PBC's engagement with women peace builders, entrepreneurs, political leaders, and activists from the Great Lakes region. And I would like to commend the Office of the Special Envoy for the final report. In my own country, we are currently implementing the 4th National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security, and civil society is playing a crucial role in monitoring the implementation. And without their voices, the best made plans for peace will fail to have a lasting impact. And here I would like to echo the passionate appeal of Valentine to see women peace builders also as peace builders and as bridge builders. We also recognize the importance of regional strategies and try to develop them in our own development cooperation. And the recommendations in the report speak to initiatives that we support in the Great Lakes region, so to strengthen the role of women in peace building and economic development and to assist survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. We maintain a strong focus on gender issues and to strive to include women in all programming, be it in technical and vocational training, cross-border platforms for peace, mental health and trauma work. As the roundtables highlighted, economic empowerment is a key vector to increase women's participation and their influence in decision-making in the domestic and public spheres. Switzerland therefore supports a cross-border trade project in the region, which strengthens cross-border trade as an economic opportunity while also empowering women. We welcome the report's recommendations to advance prevention of and support for victims of sexual and gender-based violence. And as the report notes, and several speakers said, judicial reform and the protection and promotion of human rights are crucial to improving prevention and combating impunity. Over the past 5 years, my country has supported civil society organizations that assist victims in accessing national justice and regional human rights protection mechanisms, and we very much want to continue doing that. The PBC can play a key role by amplifying the messages and actions of grassroots women's organizations and civil society platforms at the international level. At the regional and national levels, it is important to avoid duplication of efforts and build on existing structures where women have taken the lead. The regional and country-specific discussions of the PBC can mutually complement each other and reinforce our understanding of what works to enhance women's participation in building and sustaining peace. We therefore remain deeply committed to continuing our engagement and interaction with women peace builders and mediators through our mandate for the Burundi configuration and to mobilize support for their activities. I very much thank you.
Thank you very much, Pascal. Next will be Anna Karin because Mohammed is not quite ready. So Anna Karin from Sweden, please.
Thank you so much, Bob, and I promise not to call you Robert. I appreciate, and we appreciate very much this follow-up meeting. And we appreciate also that you put the focus on concrete action and in a concrete context. And I think this is key when we move from rhetorics to action in the Women, Peace and Security agenda. And I'd like to thank the briefers. I think we had some excellent contributions. J'ai beaucoup apprécié la participation de Madame Lassange et Madame Kigoma. Les rôles des sociétés civiles et des secteurs privés est très important. I also align myself with the statement that will be delivered by the European Union. I mean, as we have heard and know, the COVID-19 brings another challenge to the region. And of course, we know that women are impacted disproportionately. But I think what is even more important is that the pandemic has shed a light on the important leadership by women. And we see that every day as first responders, as peace builders, as human rights defenders, as bridge builders, as Valentine said, and in many other roles. And I think our role here today is actually to support that leadership role by the women in the region. Sweden has a feminist foreign policy, and we are a strong defender of women's enjoyment of human rights and gender equality in the region. And we are proud to lead the community network on gender equality in DRC together with UN Women. We, of course, commend the local consultations in July and August on the important role of women in peace building. And we find ourselves very much in line with the recommendations in the way that we work with the women, peace and security in the region. So I'd like to make 3 points. And in doing that, I very much align myself with what has been said by Madame Lessange, Madame Kigoma, and Madame Diop. I mean, first, to prevent silence, but always having a gender lens in everything that we do. I mean, we have heard on the importance of trade and the role that women play in trade in the region. So how can we support that borders are open, that there are secure borders, and that traders trade that where women are very much involved is supported in the region. Secondly, to continue to fight the sexual and gender-based violence. This is important for the enjoyment of human rights in the region, but it's also important when it comes to supporting the role of women to participate in political life as peace builders, etc. And finally, to strengthen women's full and equal and meaningful participation, both at the grassroots level, but also in the political life as peace builders, in the economic sector. And of course, there are very many glass ceilings that have to be broken by women and the region. And we are certainly standing behind them in these efforts. And can I just close by expressing our appreciation for the work of the Peacebuilding Fund, and this was also emphasized by Madame Diop, the Peacebuilding Fund in the region. And I just want to repeat what we always say, that it is important that we get additional funding to the Peacebuilding Fund so that it can continue to do its very important work on the ground. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna Karen. Mohammed is back, I think, and he will be followed by Mikhail from Slovakia. So.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Chairman Bob. Thank you very much. I welcome the participation of the Special Envoy for the Great Lakes and the EU Special Envoy on Women, Peace and Security, and extend my appreciation to the previous briefers and speakers and the PBSO team. Egypt attaches great importance to the Great Lakes region. We share long-standing relations with its countries and actively participate in the relevant continental and sub-regional mechanisms related to the region, including our co-opted membership in the ICGLR. We believe that many of the challenges facing the region are transboundary in nature. Thus, it is of value to hold our meeting today in this format of region-wide approach in order to address the intersecting issues of women, peace building, and development. In this regard, it's worthy to highlight that the African continent was the first to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Security Council Resolution 1325. Early in October, Egypt, in its capacity as the President of the African Union Peace and Security Council, convened a session of the AU Peace and Security Council dedicated to the review of implementation and commemoration of this paramount resolution. We are of the view that adopting WPS action plan is not sufficient. Adequate resources should be allocated to the implementation of this action plan. Egypt stresses the importance of presenting assistance to African states upon the request to build capacities and implement these action plans, especially in the Great Lakes region, where the majority of countries are in state of post-conflict reconstruction. On the latest development in the region, Egypt acknowledges the positive momentum created by DRC's robust regional approach, as well as Burundi's successful elections. We fully recognize and support regional cooperation and integration in the Great Lakes. In conclusion, I trust that the moment is timely, especially with these positive developments, to build on the relevant frames, including the Peace, Security, and Cooperation Framework and Security Council Resolution 2389 of 2017, to develop the new UN regional strategy for the Great Lakes, taking into account the inputs of the region, AU, and PBC, and focus on achieving deliverables on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mohammed. Mikhail, Slovakia.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and a special appreciation to all our briefers for very useful and very informative briefings. Like others, we are fully supportive of the initiative to focus this special meeting on the issue of women, peace, and security in the region at the time when we have just celebrated the 20th anniversary of the adoption of Resolution 1325. It goes without saying that it's important to focus on the women, peace, and security issue as one of the key underlying and cross-cutting issues that are important also in the peace-building context. I was very happy to hear from Valentine earlier her update on the situation on the border between Rubavu and Goma. Myself, I had previously 2 opportunities to visit that region in my previous capacity, and also in the context of my former role as president of the Governing Council of UN Habitat. And we had an opportunity to focus on the housing and sustainable cities issue. And I can fully confirm that the small traders, many of whom are women, really are in some ways a lackmus test for the stability and for the way we are able to address some of these key issues. So I certainly join my dear colleague Valentine in this particular issue that she highlighted, and it is exactly these practical elements that we also need to keep in mind when discussing issues like that. We certainly support greater involvement of women in all regional efforts. With elections upcoming in several countries in the region, we would like to stress the importance of initiatives promoting meaningful participation of women in political and electoral processes and advancing the women, peace, and security agenda in general. As for the progress of implementation of 1325, it is remarkable that some countries in the Great Lakes region are among the 25 nations with the best representation of women in parliaments. And this is certainly an area where we ourselves have some learning and some further improvements to make. I also wanted to highlight that Slovakia has just adopted its new national action plan for the implementation of 1325, which builds largely on the participation principle. And that's something that we would like to highlight also in the context of the situation in the Great Lakes region. In fact, I will have a special conversation with Undersecretary General Rosemary DiCarlo tomorrow on this very issue. So I will certainly take the liberty of highlighting to her also some key elements of our today's discussion, with your permission, Mr. Chair. Finally, I would like to highlight that our own PBC gender strategy of 2016 outlines as one of the thematic priority areas for gender responsive peace building engagement at regional and country levels, and also highlights the issue of security sector reform and the participation of women in the security sector. I would like to note that while some gains have been made, there remains significant challenges in promoting the full and equal participation of women, in particular in the security sector, throughout the planning, design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation phases. And we certainly would like to encourage all states in the region to continue focusing on the SSR-related efforts. Certainly there is a lot of connection also to prevention of sexual and gender-based violence, including in relation to the security sector. Women must continue to be promoted as equal leaders, and discrimination or stereotyping of women must be firmly and publicly denounced. Women are capable of so much if given the opportunity, and I really believe it is our collective responsibility to provide more of such opportunities, and where need be, to protect them. I would leave it at that, Bob. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Mikola. Appreciate it a great deal. And your expertise in this area of security reform is going to be very, very valuable to us in our work, I know, going forward. We now turn to the DPRs. Michael from Kenya, João from Angola, Omar from Morocco, and Odinga from Norway. So we'll take those in order. Michael Kibonyo.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by recognizing the presence of my neighbors, the distinguished representatives and co-members of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region, including our two sisters who briefed us this morning, and of course, Ambassador Libreta. Good to see you all. And as we say in that part of the world, karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
My delegation welcomes the Commission's renewed regional focus on the Great Lakes, particularly on local women peace builders. We also commend the Special Envoy of the Secretary General for the Great Lakes for conducting regional consultative roundtable dialogues on economic empowerment of women and their effective participation in peace building within the context of COVID-19. Kenya was honored to participate in this process from July to August, and we look forward to the Great Lakes Investment and Trade Conference that's expected to take place in Kigali in early 2021. The briefings this morning have clearly outlined the outcomes of the regional roundtables, including a comprehensive list of recommendations that reinforce the principle that women, peace and security and development agenda is a shared responsibility of national governments, regional mechanisms, and multilateral development and financial partners. Regarding the recommendations on the way forward, it is important to bear in mind that women of the Great Lakes, just like those in other specific country settings, do not form a monolithic group. For instance, women and girls in rural settings may have specific needs that differ from those of their urban counterparts. Therefore, our recommendations should aim at matching local challenges with appropriate localized solutions to enhance women's full and equal participation in peace building and development. Excellencies, for any partnership to be effective, adequate financing is critical. The partnership between the PBC and the Great Lakes is an important one. The PBC is well positioned to use its convening, advocacy, resource mobilization, and advisory mandates to sustain engagement and cooperation in support of the WPS agenda in the Great Lakes region through several measures, including the following three. One, highlighting the political and economic challenges of women entrepreneurs, particularly in the Great Lakes across cross-border trade. In this regard, my delegation welcomes the Peacebuilding Fund's cross-border work and intent to increase cross-border and multi-country investments. In particular, we call for enhanced partnership with national governments in integrating women economic security in projects that address the drivers of conflict in the border areas. Two, by mobilizing private sector donors and investors to focus on women-led and women-owned enterprises in Africa. In Africa, the large percentage of entrepreneurs are women, majority of whom are engaged in the informal sectors that provide food, personal care products, or textiles to their local communities. In essence, women are locally producing, although at lower scales, what the continent is importing as manufactured goods. So the Commission can advocate, tailor, and/or support national projects geared towards enhancing the capacity of women entrepreneurs and women-owned small and middle enterprises in many aspects, such as the ICT, marketing and branding, bookkeeping, financing, and supporting the access to functional local critical infrastructure for their locally sourced products. Three, support the formulation of WPS national action plans that speak to women leadership and participation in efforts towards the prevention of all forms of violence against women and their protection. Having women leaders in key peace operation positions is critical in creating peaceful and enabling environment for gender-sensitive policies, decisions, and national planning mechanisms that prevent and address sexual and gender-based violence. The PBC can continue to mobilize member states and civil society organizations to strengthen the inclusion of women in early monitoring and warning systems of violence through the creation of women's feedback mechanisms. In conclusion, Mr. Chair, I wish to emphasize on the need to improve on data quality, for this will drive institutional change, improve logistics, and enhance innovative perspectives to support gender-sensitive funding research. The use of gender and youth disaggregated data will also inform funding strategies for women entrepreneurs, particularly in the agricultural sector, and youth entrepreneurs involved in technology. I thank you.
Thank you, Michael. From Angola, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
welcome.
We thank you for inviting us to attend this important meeting on women, peace building, and development in the Great Lake region. Let me first of all to recognize the presence at this session of Ambassador Mulamula, our first executive secretary. You're welcome, Ambassador Liberato.
Thank you. Muito obrigado.
Mr. Chair, Excellency, since the adoption of Resolution 1325, the government of the Great Lakes region of Africa have undertaken several initiatives to address the issues of women's participation, protection, and conflict prevention, as well as the promotion of peace. In some conflict and the post-conflict countries in the Great Lakes region, ongoing peace processes are aimed at preventing new conflicts and restoring a lasting peace that will enable girls and women to have a healthy and a productive life. Despite these efforts, progress has been slow and uneven due to the complex political context of the Great Lakes region in particular. As such, all countries agreed on the need to accelerate progress using an in-field and a focused approach in the Regional Action Plan. This will also ensure uniformity of objectives in accordance with Resolution 1325 and ensure adequate monitoring and evaluation of the state interventions with actual support at the international level. Resolution 1325 reaffirmed the important role of women in preventing and resolving conflicts, in negotiations, in building peace, in maintaining a peace, and in the humanitarian response, as well as in post-conflict reconstruction. It stresses the importance of their equal participation and full involvement in all efforts to promote peace and security. It urged all actors to increase the participation of women and to incorporate gender perspective in all United Nations peace and security efforts. It calls on all parties to conflict to take special measures to protect women and girls from gender-based violence, in particular rape and other forms of sexual abuse in a situation of armed conflict. In this regard, we call for accelerated action to empower and protect women in conflict zones, and also recognize that 20 years after the adoption of the landmark resolution 1325 on sexual violation related to conflict is still rampant, and the presence of lead women in the peace process is still greatly reduced. Mr. Chair, there is a recognition by International Conference on the Great Lakes region member states of the importance of strengthening institutional capacity and accountability to protect women, girls, men, and boys from sexual violence in a situation of peace, conflict, and post-conflict situation. This recognition led to the creation of a regional training center of International Conference on the Great Lakes region, a decentralized body for research, awareness, and training of professionals. Angola recognized the need for a multi-sectoral approach and response to address the issue of gender, peace, conflict, and the specific needs of men and women, including involving youth and civil society, in line with the commitment that has been made by the head of state of International Conference on the Great Lakes region to promote the women peace and security agenda in the context of Resolution 25. We underline the participation of women in the Great Lakes region as important and decisive actors to change the region's development framework based on the principle of fundamental role they play in the support of their respective families, their inclusion and assistance in areas such as raising professional education, in the areas of agriculture exploration and marketing, access to credit, establishing links between women's associations at the local, community, and regional level as a way of increasing not only the level of knowledge, but also economic independence, to raise them as an indispensable part in making decisions that directly and indirectly affect their communities and the future of their children. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, I have Omar next, Odinga, Gunther, Alicia, David, and then I'm going to ask Sonia Farrell from the UK. So, Omar.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and thank you for organizing this important meeting with such remarkable briefers on a region that is extremely dear to Morocco and to the stability, development, peace of which Morocco attaches great importance. I wish to thank you for the theme of this meeting on women, peace building and development in the Great Lakes regions, which captures indeed what is essential for global peace and stability in a number of respects, such as, first, women are the nucleus of every society and remain an essential pillar of stability, development, and resilience within societies, communities, and families. It is indispensable to ensure women's full, equal, and meaningful participation in peace building and in all stages of dealing with conflicts so that they can play their rightful role as natural peace builders and mediators. Two, peace building remains at the essence of the UN action, namely through the development of all possible efforts, the deployment of all possible efforts to prevent the eruption of or relapse into conflict and to lay the foundation for sustainable peace and development through a cross-pillar and system-wide approach. The PBC is at the heart of this edifice, and we also commend the invaluable work of the PBF in implementing key peace-building projects in the Great Lakes region with a current regional portfolio of $37.109 million. It is extremely important to strengthen this support. Three, development cannot be without peace, and there cannot be peace without development, as this nexus has consistently been highlighted within our Commission. This is also why Morocco has always been a staunch advocate for the extreme importance of socio-economic development to sustain peace. Women, as we heard today, have a very important role to play in this regard, and they need the full support of the international community to achieve this objective. Also, we are very happy to hear today that there is a very positive dynamic in the region. Morocco has excellent relations of cooperation and friendship with all the countries of the region. I would like to reiterate my country's full and active support to the peace, security, stability, and development of the Great Lakes region, particularly after these months-long dealing with the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The full participation and contribution of women in this regard is extremely crucial and cannot be overstated. We therefore particularly welcome the briefings on the outcome of the regional roundtables of July, August 2020, which proved the power of women mediators and how women are catalytic drivers for durable socio-economic growth and peace building. In his capacity as chair of the Central African Republic configuration of the PBC, Ambassador Omar Hilal had the honor and pleasure to engage substantively with various women groups during his numerous visits to the country. He was always impressed by the strength and level of their engagement, despite very difficult circumstances, and we also welcome the support given by the PBF to different women groups in the Central African Republic. Finally, Morocco wishes to express support to the women of the Great Lakes regions and to regional peace building and developments. I thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Odinga.
Thank you so much, Bob. Today, I must admit that there's slightly focus also on another Great Lakes region closer to your home turf. But thank you so much for convening this meeting, and we treasure this opportunity. Many thanks also to the presenters, and really appreciate a lot of the input that we got there. It's important to keep a focus on women, peace, and security when we're speaking about peace building. It's not an auxiliary issue. Women are at the core of addressing the root causes of conflict and of also addressing these conflicts. women are often more embedded in the social fabrics of their local communities, and their involvement is key to move processes forward. We need to, and Norway is particularly concerned with the issues surrounding impunity, including for conflict-related sexual and gender-based violence, in order for communities to move from conflict and violence. And we've supported several projects in the DRC to this effect. It will also be a priority during our membership in the Security Council starting in January, where we also see our work in close conjunction with the work here in the Peacebuilding Commission. Norway supports also peacebuilding efforts in the region through the UN, and particularly through the peacekeeping operations in DRC and in the Central African Republic, the UN Multi-Party Trust Fund in CAR, the so-called Single Fund, the UNDP Anti-Station Coherence Fund in DRC, and also to the UN Special Envoy to the Great Lakes region. Now, another issue is disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. And we have seen that armed groups have committed themselves to voluntary DDR in the DRC over the last few years. But there's a need for additional funding to ensure that this process is properly implemented. In Norway, we particularly follow closely the discussion around the so-called DDR-C, where integration of ex-combatants is happening in the local community where possible. And here it's important that women's voices are heard and that women are involved. The Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework for DRC and the region remains the essential mechanism for addressing root causes of conflict. We stress the importance of regional and international commitments and continued collaboration between the UN and regional organizations such as the EU, SADC, and the International Conference of the Great Lakes region. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you, Odinga. Gunter, followed by Alicia and David from DRC.
Thanks a lot, Bob. And first of all, congratulations. This is a really good meeting. The idea to interlock regional and thematic discussions in the Peacebuilding Commission is exactly what we need. I would like to stay near your time limit and make 3 points. The first one is on women, peace and security. We fully support the recommendations of the report on the prevention of all forms of sexual and gender-based violence, on full, equal and meaningful political participation of women in conflict prevention and peace processes, and on women's economic potential. It's important to enhance women's access to peace building and to increase the support for women peace builders to access track one processes and support peace building in local communities. It's also critical to enable young women's access to education and their political participation. Let me remind you, by tabling resolution 2467, Germany has supported strengthening accountability and support for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. We are also contributing to implementing the resolution by supporting the Mukwege Foundation, the International Organization for Migration, and local CSOs. My second point is on German engagement and the Peacebuilding Fund. We continue to stand with the Peacebuilding Fund and to consider this as a very important element of peace building in general. This is a political statement. It is also a financial statement. We see an important role for the Peacebuilding Fund in the region, for instance, with its engagement in Burundi and the DRC, addressing key issues of cross-border cooperation, but also strengthening the role of women and youth in local governance remain in the focus for us. And we continue to call on all member states to engage more broadly in the Peacebuilding Fund and thereby in turn support the Great Lakes region. My third short remark is on the situation in the DRC. Here we believe with regard to the Peacebuilding Fund that coordination is key. The fund can complement efforts by other international players and donors, and it can spearhead innovation and new approaches like the one on women, peace and security. So here we believe that even closer coordination with missions on the ground in Kinshasa will be instrumental in becoming even more effective in our work. We also believe that the Peacebuilding Fund can play a good role in managing transition. By that I mean in particular that it will be important as we shift from peacekeeping towards peace building in the DRC. And lastly, the participation of women and the unlocking of women's potential in civil society will be key for a successful transition in the DRC in particular. So summing it up, we are celebrating 20 years of the WPS resolution. And as we celebrate, we believe that the Peacebuilding Commission and that efforts like the one that you have embarked on, Bob, are instrumental to keep the momentum. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Gunter. Alicia from Mexico, and then David from DRC, and then Ronaldo back with us from Brazil.
Ambassador, thank you very much. In the case of Mexico, we welcome the results presented on the 3 regional consultations. We think that all challenges, opportunities, and recommendations expressed today are of great value to the work ahead in the region, not only for gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, but overall for the maintenance and promotion of peace and security. You can count on the full support of Mexico to help further advance the implementation of the WPS agenda in the Great Lakes region. However, we also remain deeply concerned for the incidence of sexual and gender-based violence. It is our shared responsibility to eradicate all discriminatory social norms and customary practices that keep perpetuating the subordinate status of women and girls around the world. In light of COVID and its disproportionate effect on the lives of women and girls, we must ensure the implementation of gender perspective policies and the allocation of resources for the protection of gender-based violence and their access to comprehensive sexual and reproductive health services. Strengthening the rule of law and accountability for sexual violence are essential conditions for the prevention of conflict and peace building across the region. On the other hand, it is a very encouraging achievement that many countries of the region have passed the 30% threshold for women representation compared to the global average of 24.3. This is indicative of the importance of affirmative measures, such as the quota systems, to achieve concrete results in the advancement of women everywhere in political life. We commend the efforts undertaken by the African Union and UNDP to promote women's equal representation and participation in governance in the continent. The leadership of women, we have heard a lot about this morning, in all levels of decision-making is key in peace building and political processes to achieve sustaining peace. To conclude, Mr. Chair, I would like to reassure that as a new non-permanent member of the Security Council as of January 2021, my country, Mexico, will work to enhance synergies with the PBC. And with this, I would just like to conclude. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alicia, thank you. Muchas gracias. We now go to David from DRC. We look forward to him. And then Ronaldo from Brazil.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Avant toute chose, je voudrais encore saluer l'initiative que vous avez dû prendre pour organiser cette réunion qui fait le suivi de l'implémentation du programme Femmes, Paix, Sécurité de la région des Grands Lacs, notamment en encourageant la participation des femmes à la coopération économique, intégration régionale et efforts de consolidation de la paix. Je remercie également M. Wang Xiang, envoyé spécial du secrétaire général pour la région des Grands Lacs, pour son briefing pertinent et détaillé, ainsi que l'excellent travail qu'il abat dans la région des Grands Lacs, cette région qui est aussi chère et vraiment valeureuse pour mon pays. Ma délégation prend bonne note des résultats des tables rondes régionales de juillet et août 2020 et remercie Mesdames Julienne Lusenge, Marie Muk Kigoma, qui viennent de nous en faire la lecture. Je remercie enfin Madame Bineta Diop, envoyée spéciale de l'Union africaine pour les femmes, la paix, la sécurité, pour ses judicieuses observations. Monsieur le Président, pour ma délégation, les consultations régionales sur l'autonomisation économique des femmes et leur participation effective à la consolidation de la paix dans la région des Grands Lacs constituent un moyen idoine. Pourquoi ça constitue un moyen idoine? Parce que c'est le lieu d'attirer l'attention, que ce soit des parties prenantes et des acteurs sur la situation véritable des femmes dans cette région. Et puis de deux, pour que tout le monde puisse prendre conscience qu'il faudrait un temps soit peu faire la valorisation de l'extraordinaire capacité de ces femmes. Nous sommes convaincus que s'il y a un accompagnement adéquat, la clé de la concorde, de l'effectivité du marché continental et voir la résilience de la région des Grands Lacs en ce qui concerne la manière de se relever de la pandémie de Covid-19 se trouve entre les mains des femmes. Pendant qu'ici aux Nations Unies, nous célébrons les 20 ans de la résolution 1325, il convient de signaler qu'en République démocratique du Congo, nous avons adopté depuis l'année 2018, en septembre, la deuxième génération du plan d'action national pour la mise en œuvre de la résolution 1325. Et pour cette année, à la faveur des consultations régionales qui se sont tenues, et même pour marquer le 20e anniversaire de cette résolution, le gouvernement de mon pays a placé la célébration sous le thème de l'axe 2 de l'un des piliers de la résolution 1325, c'est-à-dire la prévention. Et à ce niveau-là, j'ai rejoint les propos qu'a tenu son Excellence, Madame l'ambassadeur Valentine, en disant que le flux de contacts, des transactions qu'il y a au niveau des femmes, au niveau des frontières, le nombre de femmes qui partagent des liens aussi forts, qui sont au-delà des réalités politiques ou tout autre, qui montrent un attachement assez solide, démontre cet axe majeur que nous avons mis en face dans mon pays, c'est-à-dire la prévention. Et ça prend en compte la vulgarisation des instruments juridiques pour la promotion et la participation des femmes à la gouvernance, la mise en place des mécanismes communautaires d'alerte précoce des conflits et des résolutions pacifiques des conflits, et bien d'autres. Vous trouverez cela sur ma copie en écrit. Donc, c'est partant de cela que la délégation de la RDC voit dans la prévention comme l'outil de veille stratégique devant être intégré. La prévention devrait être intégrée dans toutes les recommandations des 3 tables rondes qui se sont tenues au mois de juillet et au mois d'août. Parce que de cette manière-là, nous pouvons parvenir non seulement à la consolidation de la paix, mais aussi à la coopération économique au niveau de la région. Sans la prévention, nous allons retomber dans les mêmes erreurs. Mais si tous les mécanismes prennent en compte la prévention de tous ces aléas, je crois que la région des Grands Lacs pourrait se relever. Et pour cela, je dis et je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. Merci, David. Merci beaucoup. I'm going to ask Ronaldo to come in from Brazil, the PR. Ronaldo, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, thank you for the flexibility in accommodating my difficult agenda in having to pop out and back in again. I took good note that one is not to call you Robert anymore. So let me say that, Bob, the number of times that I thank you for the floor is in and of itself, I think, an indication of the very dynamic program of work you have managed to maintain in the PBC, which I think is very laudable in the current circumstances, and I think it's critical even given the very unique role that the PBC has to play within the UN structure. Let me begin by expressing my very deep appreciation to Special Envoy Huang Xia for his very comprehensive presentation, as well as the valuable perspectives brought to us today by all of the briefers. We in Brazil do attach great importance to the stabilization of the Democratic Republic of Congo and of the Great Lakes region as a whole. We know that this is a region that is endowed with an infinitely rich pool of resources, both natural and human. The activity of armed groups and the illegal exploration of natural resources are, however, still critical obstacles preventing the Great Lakes region from achieving its enormous socioeconomic potential. We strongly recommend that the Great Lakes remain a priority in our efforts to assist African nations in their vision towards silencing the guns and building a zone of peace and prosperity in the continent. We do welcome in particular the focus of this meeting on women, peace building and development, as well as the series of roundtables that took place on the role of women in the region. From our part and through our cooperation agency, PBC, we have collaborated with UN agencies in projects aimed at facilitating the access to justice and the reintegration of victims of sexual and gender-based violence in the DRC. We firmly believe that preventing violence against women and ensuring women's participation in peace and development, our efforts are crucial for setting in place the conditions that will allow for self-sustaining cycles of peace and development to take hold in the Great Lakes region. Coordination with MONUSCO is also crucial for the effectiveness of peace efforts in the region. We welcome the strengthening of peace-building elements in MONUSCO's mandate in the past few years, in particular those encouraging the mission to provide support for institution-building priorities defined in coordination with the Congolese authorities. Brazil urges member states to remain committed to reinforce MONUSCO's programmatic and peace-building capacities with a view to speeding up stabilization efforts and, conditions allowing it, to ensuring a smooth drawdown and transition. In concluding, Mr. Chairman, I would like to salute once again Mr. Huang's commitment to strengthen engagement with the PBC and reiterate that we look forward to increasing interaction. While preparing for this meeting, I particularly appreciated learning about the new strategy for consolidation of peace and conflict prevention in the Great Lakes region. I am confident that the PBC can give important contributions to the implementation of this strategy, especially taking into consideration that the Commission stands out as the only UN body with a mandate to bridge cross-pillar discussions. Thank you very much, Bob.
Ronaldo, thank you so much. Sonia Fari, Natasha, Alexander, and then whoever can get through the mic on from Ireland. So we're coming to a conclusion here. So Sonia, go ahead.
Thank you very much, and a thank you to all of the briefers for their vital insights and to other participants for their contributions. As we mark the momentous occasion of the 20th anniversary of UN Security Council 1325 on women, peace and security, the United Kingdom would like to underscore the importance of championing the agenda in the Great Lakes region, and in particular to share our deep concerns on the prevalence of conflict-related and gender-based violence against women and girls in the region. It is crucial all actors work to ensure that the underlying drivers of conflict help create an enabling environment for these terrible abuses are addressed. We echo the calls for strengthening systems to provide justice and accountability for all victims of sexual and gender-based violence, and fully support the recommendations for promoting the economic empowerment of survivors. We also call on all Great Lakes peacebuilding activities, from grassroots to international efforts, to ensure the full and meaningful integration of the Women, Peace and Security agenda. This includes activities led and delivered through an accountable UN Great Lakes regional strategy. The United Kingdom welcomes the focus on women's economic empowerment in the region and its crucial role in ensuring equitable long-term prosperity. The Great Lakes Investment and Trade Conference in Kigali should ensure it retains this focus in addition to promoting viable and sustainable economic gains and regional integration. In this vein, it is vital all regional initiatives address the drivers of instability and conflict. Failure to do so weakens the prospects of long-lasting economic development. We also welcome and support the calls for post-COVID-19 socioeconomic recovery to involve the meaningful participation and inclusion of women in decision-making and planning. We want to highlight the risk of regression exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic in the Great Lakes region and the threat it poses to regional development. We are particularly concerned by the increased levels of insecurity, continued human rights abuses and political tension in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We also note the slowdown of regional mediation efforts and of the stalling progress towards implementation of peace, security and cooperation framework for the DRC. It is vital we see effective and coordinated UN leadership. We welcome the opportunity to see a holistic and actionable UN Great Lakes strategy that the regional and international community can champion and upon which we can hold ourselves and the UN to account. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. I'm going to juggle things around a little bit, colleagues, to accommodate some people with timing issues. Next will be Shin from Japan, and then Michael Tierney or whoever is from Ireland, then Natasha, and then Alexander from France. Shin.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, I thank the Chair, Ambassador Ray, for convening today's important meeting. Je remercie envoyé spécial Chair de son exposé. Je aussi remercie Madame de Songe et Madame Kigoma pour leur rôle essentiel en contribuant à faire en sorte que les voix des femmes de la région soient entendues. I also thank EU Special Envoy Job for her very valuable inputs. It is clear from today's briefing that COVID-19 has disproportionately affected vulnerable populations, particularly women. At the same time, it has been highlighted that the key to addressing the current multifaceted human security challenge is to enhance national and local resilience through protecting and empowering women in all sectors at all levels. In this regard, Japan supports recommendations presented today as a result of the regional roundtables, which are aimed at promoting women's socioeconomic empowerment, facilitating women's political participation and contribution to peace building, and strengthening the prevention of all forms of violence against women. Japan promotes the women, peace, and security agenda as an important pillar of its international gender policy and has extended assistance to address various challenges women face in the Great Lakes region. For example, Japan has contributed through UN Women to the Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which has supported projects with tangible outcomes, including higher agricultural production, increased employment of women, greater awareness of sexual and gender-based violence in communities, and more active women's participation in community activities. Efforts to promote stability and prosperity in the Great Lakes region need a more concerted and integrated approach. In this regard, Japan welcomes the initiative to organize the Great Lakes Investment Trade Conference and encourages all those concerned to do everything possible to ensure full, equal, and meaningful participation of women at all levels in this conference. As we are doing again today, the Peacebuilding Commission has long championed gender-responsive peace building, actively engaging with local women peace builders and learning from them to advance the women, peace, and security agenda. The PBC should continue to use its convening power and bridging role even more to help women in the Great Lakes region into the future. Please let me conclude by reiterating Japan's continued commitment to supporting the people in the Great Lakes region. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just remind myself what I promised you to do. Let's see here. Who thinks they're next? I think it's the Irish are up next.
Merci, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur. Vous m'entendez?
Je vous entends très bien.
Merci, merci les envoyés spéciaux, tous les distingués participants. Nous accueillons beaucoup ce débat spécifique sur les femmes et les consolidations de la paix dans la région des Grands Lacs. Je vais faire quelques brefs commentaires. Je crois qu'on a décidé qu'on avait affaire ici avec 10 résolutions pertinentes de l'ONU et je crois qu'ensemble, on doit veiller à une mise en œuvre plus efficace dans les années qui viennent. Revenons à l'anglais. We know from the recent review of the implementation of the PBC gender strategy that even within the UN system itself, there needs to be more work done in this field. We very much welcome the report of the consultations by the Office of the UN Special Envoy for the Great Lakes regions. It's very striking that many of that report's findings have parallels in a report by UN Women and the Global Network of Women Peacebuilders, which was commissioned by Ireland and launched at the UN just last week. And both reports emphasize the importance of women's participation in the economy, their role as entrepreneurs, and the disproportionate contribution of women in the care economy, which of course is particularly relevant in the current circumstances of the pandemic. The need for more money for gender disaggregated data, research and evidence, and the GLR report specifically highlights the absence of research on gender-sensitive financing, and I think the group of Friends of Financing for Development, which Canada and Jamaica so ably lead, will be interested in that particular finding. The report also emphasizes, as I said, the disproportionate impact of that COVID-19 has had on women in terms of reduced funding, shrinking civil society space, and increased care and domestic work. Et juste pour continuer ce dialogue avec tous les partis. Merci, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur.
Thank you so much. Next up is Natasha, followed by Alexander de la France, and Mr. Huang from China.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor and also for organizing this very timely meeting. Je souhaiterais remercier tous les orateurs pour leur présentation, en particulier l'envoyé spécial du secrétaire général, la représentante de l'Union africaine et aussi les représentantes de la société civile, car leur expérience et leur connaissance du terrain est très importante. Elles connaissent mieux que nous les besoins des femmes sur le terrain. Et je souhaiterais aussi remercier le bureau de l'envoyé spécial pour son rapport qui est très important et les recommandations qui ont suivi. I think a lot of important things have already been said today, especially the important role that women play as agent for change. Their experience and perspective is crucial, and this is why it's very important that they are included in the development and implementation of reforms. It was also flagged that they play a central role in building peace because they contribute to the sustainability of crisis resolution processes, as highlighted by the UN Security Council Resolution 1325. It's important to acknowledge that there will not be real peace and security without women, and this is why we urge all authorities in the region to take all measures necessary to ensure the equal participation of women, including survivors of sexual violence and internally displaced women, in efforts to maintain and promote peace and security, and to enhance the prevention of conflict-related sexual violence. We welcome that there has been some progress in relation to women's political participation in the Great Lakes region, but we are concerned at the disproportionate impact of the COVID-19 on the safety and livelihoods of women. Let me now flag a certain number of key areas where we think that more implementation will be important. First of all, institutional and legislative changes that strengthen the status of women and their involvement in decision-making. Second, women being given space in the media to promote the visibility of their actions and to amplify their voices. Third, the development of training and capacity building for future young women leaders. And fourth, additional steps to empower women socially and economically. Insecurity and exposure to risk are also issues of concern, and they also prevent women's effective participation and representation. Therefore, to advance the WPS on the ground, it's important to address the security and protection of women peace builders, mediators, and leaders, and more broadly, to assess the role of masculinities in the reproduction of violence against women during peace negotiation, mediation, and peace building. The EU is taking concrete action in this direction through support programs for justice, strengthening of mechanisms from prosecuting and supporting victims, including survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, and direct support to Dr. Mukwege Spanzi Hospital. Mr. President, I will conclude by repeating that the EU has been a staunch proponent and supporter of the WPS framework. And to this end, we will continue to support FemWise Africa to strengthen the role of women in conflict prevention and mediation efforts, and our strong commitment to have the WPS agenda properly integrated across the whole Generation Equality Forum. Finally, we welcome the comprehensive recommendations from the report, and we stand ready to support their implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. France, Alexander Muragasu, and then we have Li Jinhuang from China. And that concludes the discussion from that point of view.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Je remercie l'ensemble des intervenants pour leur présentation ce matin. La promotion de l'agenda Femmes, Paix et Sécurité dans la région des Grands Lacs a connu des progrès ces derniers mois. Les Nations Unies et tout particulièrement l'envoyé spécial du secrétaire général pour la région dans les Grands Lacs, dont je salue la présence aujourd'hui, ont renforcé leurs efforts en lien avec les partenaires locaux et régionaux pour soutenir la pleine mise en œuvre des résolutions Femmes, Paix et Sécurité. Je souhaiterais insister sur 3 points, si vous me le permettez. Tout d'abord, la pleine participation des femmes à la gouvernance et à la consolidation de la paix. 20 ans après l'adoption de la résolution 1325 du Conseil de sécurité, nous sommes encore loin d'atteindre les objectifs fixés. Malgré des progrès en termes de représentation féminine, les femmes continuent d'être sous-représentées dans les sphères décisionnelles de la région. Alors qu'elles sont souvent des actrices clés de la réponse aux crises, les femmes sont aussi insuffisamment présentes au sein des processus de paix et de sortie de crise. Ainsi, la région doit éliminer l'ensemble des obstacles freinant l'accès des femmes à la vie politique et aux processus électoraux en particulier. La mobilisation de la société civile pour renforcer les capacités et soutenir les candidates décideuses médiatrices de demain reste aussi indispensable. Deuxièmement, les États de la région doivent prendre des mesures pour assister économiquement les femmes et les filles, notamment face à la pandémie de Covid-19. Un soutien particulier doit être apporté aux femmes travaillant dans les petits commerces et le secteur agricole, car la stabilité de la région passe aussi par le renforcement de leur rôle économique. Les initiatives visant à renforcer les réseaux des femmes pour échanger les bonnes pratiques, les formations pour les femmes sur l'entrepreneuriat et le commerce, leur accès à la propriété et aux terres doivent être encouragées. Dans les efforts régionaux d'intégration commerciale, une attention particulière doit être donnée aux secteurs où les femmes sont impliquées, et je pense notamment au secteur agricole. Enfin, la France reste préoccupée par les niveaux élevés de violences physiques et sexuelles subies par les femmes et les filles dans la région. Par ailleurs, en accentuant les tensions économiques et sociales ainsi que le manque d'accès aux services, la pandémie de Covid-19 a accentué la vulnérabilité des femmes et des filles. Parfois, les mesures visant à freiner la propagation de la Covid-19 ont pu entraîner une augmentation des violences domestiques et basées sur le genre. C'est pourquoi il est urgent de renforcer la prévention de toutes les formes de violence à l'égard des femmes, ainsi que la lutte contre l'impunité des violences sexuelles. Cela implique enfin des réformes judiciaires pour assurer le plein respect des droits de l'homme, mais aussi un travail avec les organisations de la société civile qui peuvent, je le pense, davantage inclure les femmes dans les mécanismes de suivi et d'alerte rapide de la violence. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Merci, Alexandre. Maintenant, la Chine, China.
Mr. Chair, I want to join others to thank you for convening this meaningful meeting, and we listen carefully to all the briefers' informative and inspiring inputs. Our special thanks go to Special Envoy Xia Huang and his office for their continuous efforts to advance women, peace, and security agenda in the Great Lakes region, and their endeavor to build trust among regional countries and pave way for long-standing peace and sustainable development in the region. In recent years, with the joint efforts of regional countries and the international community, the positive momentum in the Great Lakes region has been further consolidated. A window of opportunity opens up for peace and development, and also for women's empowerment in the region. We commend the progress made by the regional countries in this field, especially in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. This year marks the 25th anniversary of Beijing Declaration and Plan for Action, the 20th anniversary of the adoption of Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. The region should capitalize on these anniversaries to reaffirm its commitment, increase input, and inject new impetus into the women, peace, and security agenda and women's development. We want to emphasize several points. First, continue to support women in playing an important role in peace and security, and advance the WPS agenda in a holistic and balanced manner. We should respect women's right to speak and to decision-making, ensure their representation in peace negotiations and national governance. We need to protect the legitimate rights and interests of women during and after conflict, provide timely humanitarian assistance to women affected by conflict, and give full consideration to their actual difficulties and needs. Second, promote gender equality and women's empowerment. The WPS agenda and the 2030 agenda for sustainable development are interlinked and indivisible from each other. The achievement of sustainable development and economic empowerment of women are key for preventing conflict, sustaining peace, and strengthening women's protection and participation. We should increase women's voice in political, economic, cultural, and social affairs, investment in women's education, medical care, employment, and so forth. Improve women's livelihood, eradicate poverty among women, promote women's development in tandem with social and economic progress. Third, strengthen regional cooperation for women's development. The WPS agenda is an integral part of the regional development and requires the joint efforts of all countries in the region, international and regional organizations, and all sectors of the society. We should take seriously and give full play to the unique strengths of regional and sub-regional organizations such as CAU, SADC, ICGLR, and encourage regional initiatives and practices based on the actual conditions of the region. We should fully respect the sovereignty and ownership of the countries concerned, support them in advancing the WPS agenda in line with their national conditions, and guide women's groups and civil society to play a constructive role. China stands ready to continue to work with the international community in promoting the greater role of women in peace and security, accelerating the realization of gender equality and women's empowerment, and contributing to women's development in the region. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for that statement. Colleagues, that concludes our list. But there are a couple of other people I'd like to bring in. I mentioned at the beginning that, and some of you mentioned, shouted out to Ambassador Mulamula. I'd like to ask her if she could say a few words, Liberata, your perspectives would be most valuable. We also have Barry Freeman with us, who's working with Oscar at the Peacebuilding Commission. And then I'd like to have our briefers, those who are still with us, to say a few words. And if I may, I'll exercise my right as chair to try to sum up and give a bit of conclusion and reference to where we seem to be going and seem to be in great agreement. I want to thank everybody for their comments and their questions, and just say that many of you have given new definition to the concept of 2 minutes, but that's okay. We'll get through it. We'll survive. It's okay. So, Liberata, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ambassador. Good to see you, and congratulations on your appointment as a permanent representative, but also as a chair of the Peacebuilding Commission. We are delighted to see you and to see your energy, the enthusiasm, and the passion. We really appreciate having organized this meeting, as was promised by your predecessor. I want to thank all the excellencies and all the representatives who have participated in this important meeting. Of course, I associate myself with all that has been said by my sisters from the region, Madam Vineta Diup from African Union. I don't want to water down what they have said because I was part of the roundtable meetings. So what I wanted to maybe just highlight in concluding, because when you come last, you don't want to repeat what has been said, but say maybe what has not been said. One, Chair, while thanking the PBC, of course, I have heard a number of recommendations that have been made from your membership about your convening power, the power for mobilizing resources, the power of advocacy. So this is why we came back to you, knowing that the PBC has that power to do it. I'm encouraged from your statement at the very beginning, expressing Canada's support of the replenishment conference of the Peacebuilding Fund. And as has been said by Sweden and others, that we need money in that fund to be able to support all that has been said today and the recommendations that have been made in supporting women in economic, social, economic, and political transformation and participation. So that is one we want PBC to continue with this momentum. I am known by other name as Mama Momentum and Mama Great Lakes Region. So I'm quite encouraged by the momentum that there is, and please don't let it die. Two, we have also had a number of recommendations that have been made. But one thing, Chair, which was said by I think it was the former Foreign Minister of Sweden, that the women do not ask for a voice. The women have a voice. What the women needs is to be listened to and go beyond the rhetoric and take action. So we are hoping that the UN plan of action that has been adopted and that has constituted the report of the Secretary General will be implemented. Of course, if PBC can mobilize resources, we need resources to support this. Thirdly, Chair, I wanted to assure you that the women in the Great Lakes region are well organized, very well organized, as entrepreneurs, as local peace builders, as cross-border traders. So there is all what it needs, but then what they need is your actionable support, and of course, putting resources where your mouth is. So in conclusion, I want to thank you. I want to thank the Office of the Special Envoy, Ambassador Shia, and his team for putting this in their strategic plan, the Women, Peace and Security Agenda as a priority. I want to thank the government of Rwanda for staying on course with regard to the conference on trade and investment. Of course, I appreciate what Ambassador Valentine said. We don't want to do it virtually. We want to be in person. As I said, the women are ready. They are ready. They are ready. They need your support. They need the political will necessary. So I want to thank the Office of the Peacebuilding Support Office for keeping this momentum from July, when we had June, we had our meeting, and having stayed on course to have this meeting. So, Mr. Chairman, welcome again to the Peacebuilding Commission, and we look forward to your leadership to continue this active engagement on women, peace, and security. And everybody, as they said, we are not here to lament about the victims as victims, but we are bringing this energy, this commitment that we can do it. And as one of the, I think was Slovak ambassador said, the women are capable. What they need is opportunities and to be enabled. I thank you very much, and I thank everyone who has participated in this important conference. Thank you very much.
So now I know why they call you Mama Momentum. Good, good statement. Very good statement. Barry,
Thank you.
Do you have some things to add?
Yes, thank you very much. It's hard to follow Ambassador Mulamula, but thank you, Chair, for convening this timely meeting, and to all the briefers for their insights and recommendations on how to unleash the full and transformational power of women in the region. We heard from Special Envoy Shah about the new UN strategy for the Great Lakes region, and would like to congratulate him and his team for the inclusive approach that underpins it. In line with the Secretary General's reforms, this strategy is intended to guide coherent and coordinated cross-pillar UN action in the region with all of our partners, including in support of women's meaningful participation in peace building, to help strengthen their central role in socioeconomic recovery and development, and in critical areas of protection. Je voudrais remercier Madame Lusenge et Madame Kigoma pour leurs interventions sur les consultations régionales. We acknowledge the diversity of the participants, the substantive discussions, and the concrete recommendations on themes that lie at the very heart of the Women, Peace, and Security agenda. We hope that this initiative will serve as an example and good practice for future PBC engagements at the regional level. And in this regard, I really do want to acknowledge the vision of Ambassador Mulamula, and to thank her again for her contributions as a member of the Eminent Persons Group in support of the 2020 Peacebuilding Architecture Review. And I thank Madame Diop for her tireless and unflagging efforts to promote gender inclusion and participation in support of the implementation of the WPS agenda across the African continent. As the PR from Slovakia noted, this meeting coincides not only with the 20th anniversary of Resolution 1325, but also with efforts by the PBC to better track the implementation of its gender strategy. As we heard in recent PBC meetings and during last week's open debate in Security Council, 20 years on, women's participation in peace and peacebuilding processes is not where it should be or where it must be if we are to collectively meet the growing challenges of our times, challenges that know no borders. Madame Lusenge, Madame Kigoma, on vous a entendu clairement. We need to do more to strengthen and resource UN cooperation with women, civil society leaders, and entrepreneurs, and the groups and enterprises that they represent. And in this regard, I thank Madame Diop and others for highlighting the role of the Peacebuilding Fund, which has recently increased funding for cross-border projects in the region with the objective of creating peace dividends for women and youth and bolstering women's central role in national economic activity and trans-border trade. PBF projects such as the one that helps women living in the border area between the DRC and Rwanda to increase cross-border trade are particularly relevant, considering the fact that 70% of cross-border traders in the region are women. As the Rwandan PR noted, some 65,000 women cross between Goma and Bukavu every day for economic reasons. So to continue with such initiatives and to scale them up and expand them when needed, we count on the continuous support of willing member states to ensure that next year we'll have sufficient resources to meet the increasing demand for PBF support. And we're looking forward to the replenishment conference in January, and thank Canada very much for agreeing to co-chair that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. I'm going to give an opportunity. Je vais donner une opportunité à l'envoyé spécial et puis à Madame Lusenga et puis à Madame Kigoma de donner quelques paroles si elle veut. Je crois que c'est important et puis on va arriver à la conclusion. Alors, mesdames, messieurs, est-ce que vous avez quelques paroles à nous offrir? Je peux le traduire après. I'll translate after if there's anybody needs it.
Monsieur le Président,
oui.
Je vous remercie pour m'avoir donné de nouveau la parole. Ce que j'aimerais livrer, c'est un message de remerciement. Un message de remerciement d'abord à votre endroit pour votre présidence magistrale qui nous a permis de faire aujourd'hui un échange très riche, très constructif, un échange qui dénote l'intérêt tout particulier que la Commission porte à la région des Grands Lacs et au rôle éminent que les femmes, véritables actrices de changement. Et c'est à nous de travailler ensemble pour mettre toujours en relief le rôle des femmes dans le processus économique, dans le processus politique, dans le développement économique et aussi dans la lutte contre toute discrimination ou même brutalité et criminalité liées au genre. Un autre remerciement qui s'adresse à la Commission qui a bien voulu intégrer dans son agenda les priorités des femmes de la région des Grands Lacs dans le contexte actuel marqué par une crise sanitaire sans précédent. Je peux vous assurer, à vous, Excellence Monsieur le Président, et à tous les délégués présents à cette réunion, que le bureau du secrétaire général pour la région des Grands Lacs ne ménagerait aucun effort pour traduire les appuis de la Commission en projets concrets au profit des femmes de la région des Grands Lacs, tout cela dans le cadre de notre mandat et surtout dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de la stratégie régionale et de son plan d'action. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci beaucoup. C'est très gentil. J'apprécie beaucoup le travail que vous êtes en train de faire. Madame Lusengo, vous êtes là?
Oui, Président, je suis là. Bon, vous allez m'excuser, je suis dans les noirs, donc vous n'allez pas peut-être me voir. Il n'y a pas d'électricité. Donc, je voudrais ici remercier tous les excellents ambassadeurs, toute la Commission, pour vos réactions et votre prise de considération par rapport à ces recommandations formulées par les femmes. Et nous comptons beaucoup sur vous pour la réalisation. Je vous remercie et vous connaissez bien la situation de la RDC telle que j'ai bien suivi et de la région des Grands Lacs en général. Et nous comptons sur vous parce que sans les ressources, nous ne pouvons rien faire. Malgré nos efforts, on essaie de faire. Toutes les femmes fortes de la région des Grands Lacs vous remercient et continuent à compter sur vous pour la prévention, comme a dit mon compatriote, et aussi pour la réalisation des changements, des transformations de notre communauté. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Madame Lusengo. Merci beaucoup. Madame Kigoma. Vous êtes là toujours, Madame?
Je suis là, Monsieur le Président.
C'est bon.
Je tiens à remercier tous les ambassadeurs et tous les intervenants qui nous donnent courage à nous, toutes les femmes. On a la sensation qu'on a été compris et que les recommandations seront mises en action. Je pense que c'est l'action qui est très importante et que nous voulons voir. La femme, elle est prête à travailler, elle est résiliente, elle est déterminée et c'est le socle du développement du monde. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Madame. Well, from our three briefers, we had, I think, a very clear and, if I may say so, a moving statement that reminded us of the importance of action, that the conversation has been has been rich. We've been, I think, vitally helped by the report of the Special Envoy, his presentation today. At the same time, I think it's fair to say that all of our briefers stressed the importance of our actually following up and doing what needs to be done. They were very grateful for the opportunity to participate, and I think it was a very very good of them to spend as much time with us this morning as they did. Colleagues, I just want to say by way of conclusion, Canada is very proud of our long and historic relationship with all of the countries of the Great Lakes regions, going back to the earliest days of our engagement in the field of education. We have been heavily involved and engaged in the Great Lakes region. And it remains a part of Africa that is very dear to our hearts. The second thing I want to say is that we are so aware of the struggle, of the violence, of the death, and of the destruction that has taken place over the last several decades. And I think we can only marvel at the courage and at the resilience of those who have continued to fight for peace, and it is a fight, to fight against discrimination, to fight for human development, and to fight for institutions and ways to not just improve the situation, but to create hope and opportunity for the next generation. I think that the call that has been made for more resources is well understood and well appreciated. And I hope very much that we'll be able to follow that up with some real contributions from a number of countries that have already indicated they want to continue to support or add their support to the Peacebuilding Fund. At the same time, I think we also heard a clear call for a better job on the ground by the UN family in coordinating what they're doing and in bringing together and making sure that there are no gaps, silos, divisions between those who are working on economic issues, those who are working on justice issues, those who are working on development issues. They have to be part of a whole, and it has to be coordinated. And the donor community has to be sure that we are coordinating with each other, but also with the UN to make sure that our efforts are not wasted or duplicated in ways that are not constructive. So I think we've all found this to be, in the words of one of our contributors, a very rich discussion, a discussion with a lot of depth, and many countries that are represented around the table here have a very long history of engagement in the region. And we've all struggled with the events of the last number of years where things have gone terribly wrong and have caused great havoc and great hardship. But I was really impressed by the practicality of the suggestions, by the positive nature of the suggestions, and also by the extraordinary role that women have played, are playing, and will continue to play in getting us onto a better path. And I think, if I may just borrow a wonderful phrase that Ambassador Mulamula gave us, which was that women have a voice. That's not the problem. The problem is, are they going to be heard? And I can only say for my part, and I know I speak for many of my colleagues who are listening today, we have heard. We have heard, and we have been impressed not only with the eloquence and the dedication of the people who are made presentations today, but also of how much progress has been made and how, quite frankly, you all have much to teach us about the importance of creating a culture of deep and genuine equality, where everyone is treated with respect, with dignity, with kindness, and without an ounce of a sense of discrimination, or that there is ever an excuse for ignoring the needs and demands of equality. So it's been a great discussion. I really appreciate it. Canada is very proud to be part of this organization. Delighted to be chair and to be taking us into January, when I will relinquish my chairmanship, having, I hope, been able to do something in terms of replenishing the fund. So I hope you are talking to your home governments about the importance of this replenishment process and the need for us to really take seriously some of the comments and recommendations that we've heard. So thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. And now you can all go back to CNN. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you. Very good meeting. Please, I hope you heard that I said Bob. Bye-bye,
did
Bob.
say Bob.
Thank
It's
you very
okay.
much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Mind the gap.
Thank you.
Mind the gap.